Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Pisces, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April 2024. Hope you're well. I'm using, what am I using here? The Other World's Tarot. God, that absolutely, I blanked so hard on that right now. I'm using this one for you today. So, before we start, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is link number 1 down in the description box. The second link in the description box is to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. Hang out with a truly extraordinary group of people, and I don't say that lightly, and take part in the classes and stuff that we've got going on over there. So if that sounds like it's of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. And the third link is to the 3-month overviews that I have done for each of the signs. They run, obviously, from April to June 2024. We are moving into quite tumultuous times, so if you feel that you would benefit from having a bit of advance warning about how that might affect your sign collectively, that's probably the link for you. So with all of that out of the way, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Pisces, please? Oh, and there's the first 2. We have got the Wheel of Fortune and the 5 of Pentacles, both in the reverse. What about current energy, please? Current energy for Pisces, 10 of Cups. Okay. And what's coming towards Pisces for April, please? 9 of Cups. Interesting. We have the Lover's card at the bottom of the deck, and I like this very much, although I wonder, what do we have underneath that? 7 of Cups. Yeah, I was getting a a bit of a murky feel, actually, off that Lover's card there. And that 7 of Cups underneath sort of confirms how I was feeling about it. So that's the 10. I'm going to sort of pop that there for a second. Let's get some clarifiers out and see what this is all about. But it really does feel, to me, just looking at this immediately, that we've got the beginnings of some sort of transition for you, Pisces. And it's one that is looking to centre you and what you need over perhaps the needs, wants and desires of the people around you. But let's get into it. Let's have a look. Tell me about this 5 of Pentacles and Wheel of Fortune. We've got the 2 of Cups and the King of Wands. Let's get one more for that, because there are 2 cards. Oh, 2 cards. All right, so we have the Tower and we have the 4 of Wands. All right then, tell me about the 10 of Cups, please. Queen of Swords in reverse. And the High Priestess, there you are, Pisces. And tell me about this 9 of Cups, please. 5 of Wands in reverse. And the Hanged Man, there you are again, Pisces. Right, Page of Swords is at the bottom of the deck. And, you know, if we just take a second to kind of drink in all of those cards on the table, you will see that we have major arcana cards sort of popping up everywhere. There's a lot of energy at work on you at the moment, facilitating, I think that's probably the best way to put it, facilitating the adjustments that are coming up for you. And it feels kind of uncomfortable. Not painful, Pisces, I want to make that really clear, but uncomfortable, because there seems to be something of you that is new, that is emerging, that is not in concordance with the situation that you find yourself in, right? It's not, it feels like an awareness that the situation that you're in can't support who you are versus who you were. Right, and I'll get into what that means in a second. So we've got the Page of Swords who's sitting at the bottom down here. It's, you know, a relatively minor card in the grand scheme of things, but I think it's really, really important in terms of what's going on in your mind at the moment, right? The Page of Swords often is associated with the acquisition of new information. He's an information gatherer of sorts, but I think it's a little bit reductive to see it only that way, because for me the Page of Swords represents some new emerging mental connections that were not there before, and that might come by way of new information, but often it's about the information that floods into your brain when you put together 2 points that you did not see before. This the mental expansion that comes from the Page of Swords is seeing things very, very differently, seeing the world differently, actually, I would say. Now, the Lover's card that is sitting at the bottom there can talk to union and harmony and pulling people together, right? Literally a card of love and that sort of thing. But it has other meanings aside. The original name for that card was actually the Choice, which I think is quite interesting. And I think it was depicted with a man and 2 women. And the idea was he was being called to choose between these 2 things. But if you even step beyond that, what we've got is conscious co-creation. We've got you somehow getting into alignment with where the universe wants you to be. And the fact that the 7 of Cups is underneath there means that I think what's made things very foggy for you of late is the fact that you couldn't really see the route forwards. I mean, there might be even something a little bit 8 of Swords about the way that you in your environment versus you and how you want to show up. Like there's not a compatibility there. That's what I'm trying to say. And this Lover's card is you realigning yourself with something that is much more powerfully you than where you are at the moment. So let's get through these cards, and hopefully I'll do a better job of explaining what it is that I'm feeling as I'm talking to you. So we've got the 5 of Pentacles in reverse, and we've got the Wheel of Fortune. Now, the Wheel of Fortune is one of those cards where, generally speaking, I don't pay that much attention to whether it shows up in the reverse or the upright, because it's circular. There's no obvious state where we have a top or a bottom. We talk about the Wheel of Fortune in terms of, the wheel turning, and sometimes you're on the downward swing and sometimes you're on the upward swing. And I think actually the Wheel of Fortune, in whichever way it turns up, can indicate either of those states. It does talk about needing to learn something, right? Really take in some sort of important lesson. And for you, this would be here around the idea of self-care, your needs. What do you need? How you can meet your own basic needs and all those sorts of things. Because this way round, it would say that you've not been doing that. Right? Or it can be a fear that you've not been doing that. I mean, that is true. Also, when you get a 5 turning up in the reverse and you have 2 on the table, what we've got is a stabilization of that energy. And it's kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's unstable, frankly. So when it comes to where you invest your energy, whether you invest it in yourself, whether you take care of yourself in the way that you need to, everything around that tends to be a little bit unstable, but you've stabilized it here, and we've got this Wheel of Fortune. Now, I feel like the reason that it's shown up in the reverse, despite the fact that it doesn't make a lot of difference to the way that I interpret it, is because of the perception of the challenge to shift yourself from where you are to where you feel increasingly that you need to be. Because we've got that Tower card there representing, frankly, a change of direction. And sometimes it's one that you don't see coming. Usually it's one that you don't see coming. But I don't think that this is having its expression outside of you. This feels like a very internal tower where you suddenly realise, what you had thought had been supportive relationships, meaningful relationships with people, are now no longer compatible with who you are and who you're becoming, and the kind of life that you want to live moving on from this. So it could be that there are significant relationships that cover that, right? We could be talking about your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, they friend, spouse, whatever. But it could be groups of people. It could be friendships that, have had a long-standing value to you. Possibly, I would say at this point, due to the familiarity more than anything else. because the King of Wands here is saying, you know, there is some action that is needing to be taken around the way that you show up with other people. You know, at some point you came together with this person or these people because your energies matched. There was some sort of alignment, right? There was a shared goal, or you know, a shared set of values or something like that. So right, so it can be a spouse, it can be a significant other, but it can be a friend, it can be a wider family member, it could even be a business partner. We can see the Two of Cups indicating that sometimes. But there's action that needs to be taken, right? I would say by you, to crack this open in some sort of way that has not been. It's not been a course of action that's been on the table for you up until this point. You might have thought about it, you might have daydreamed about it, but there's felt like a kind of intractability about it. And now, suddenly, like a bolt from the blue, it's hitting you that in order for you to have the kind of joy in your life that you want, there's some sort of adjustment to your foundation that needs to happen, and the people who are participating in the foundation. Now, for some of you, it will be significant others. You know, we've got the Two of Cups here, and we've also got this, which is sometimes called the wedding card, right? So we could be talking about a spousal or you know, close to spousal kind of relationship. But for others of you, it could well be about the creative expression that you want to be the foundation of your existence, and how there are, you know, incompatible energies around you who feel like, rather than supporting you, now feel slightly abrasive. They feel like they're not really giving you what you need. And so the difficult decision represented by the Tower and the Lovers, and the confusion around that, is it's time to go, and how am I going to affect this? Like I said, it could be, you know, the breaking down of some sort of business partnership. Could even be a relationship between you and your boss, you know, where you've kind of worked yourself to death, because Pisces, you seem very tired to me, and you have done for months. And it's almost like there's an unfairness, although the wheel is turning and you know that this is something that you have to do, there's an unfairness with the way that you have to kind of break this situation that you feel very responsible for, but at the same time the pull is very, very strong toward that. Now, when we come into your current energy, we've got the Ten of Cups with the Queen of Swords in reverse and the High Priestess. Like I said, High Priestess is Pisces energy for me, so you're showing up really authentically here, and that's important. But we have that kind of sticking point, which is the difficulty you feel in actually acting like a Queen of Swords. She gets a bit of a bad rap as being a cold hard bitch, right, at times, because she does help cut situations away, certainly people and whatnot. It's all on the balance of facts, right? It's a very logical position. But she doesn't seem to be showing up here in a way that is able to be healthily expressed. Now, you're here, you're sensitive, you're intuitive, you know, you're open to all sorts of this. I get this sense of you kind of expanding, Pisces, beyond the boundaries of what you can achieve in this situation that you're in already. But it's how to do it in a way that causes the least pain and grief for everyone. Like the Ten of Cups is a beautiful card that speaks to the way in which many people can come together, rocking their own personal Nine of Cups, right? They come together and they create something that's bigger than the sum of its parts. But as I've pointed out quite a few times in the last 4 months, because it seems to have been coming up a lot, the Ten of Cups is one of those cards that has a bit of a sting in the tail. Because everything in the tarot moves in cycles, right? So we're moving from the Ace to the 10 always, right? And then there are wider cycles that involve, you know, the Ace to the King. And then there's the major arcana cycles as well. You know, we've got a cycle that's formed simply by the Page to the King too. But the thing with cycles is there comes a point where there is an entire revolution that has been created, right? We've worked our way right the way through the cycle, and now it is time to start anew. And often the sting in the tail of the Ten of Cups is that people don't want to put that down in the way that would be most beneficial, because of some sort of attachment to that. Now, I'm going to just pull out Tarot of the Abyss here. Tell me about this Ten of Cups. Yeah, we've got the Sun, which is the card of Leo. And we've got the Knight of Pentacles. You know, a sense that so much work has been put into creating, you know, what has represented a Ten of Cups for you. Whether or not that has actually adequately been reflected back to you, you know, so the Ten of Cups is about emotional connection ultimately, and generally it should be about good emotional connection. But if you've been in a situation that has not enabled you to meet your own basic needs, and in whatever way it hasn't met your basic needs for you anyway, you know, what we've got here is a kind of burgeoning consciousness around your own sense of self. I know this came up quite a lot in the 3-month overviews that I did for you, Pisces, or the 3-month overview that I did for you, where it's almost like you're battling with a sunk costs fallacy here, which is to say you've put so much effort into it and so much positive intent into it. It's like, well, I can't stop now. But the meaning of the Ten of Cups is it is representing some sort of end. It's some sort of completion. And what we've got sitting at the bottom of the deck here is the Fool, is the need to break free in some sort of way, the need to be able to be autonomous, actually. There's a big meaning of the Fool there, and wander where it is you may. And in order for you to do that, this completion needs to happen. But for whatever reason, it's just not feeling like it's going the way that you want to. Now, if the Queen of Swords and the High Priestess were both in the upright and they were having a conversation, and that's the High Priestess is the feeling about this, and like I said, there's a great sense of expansion for you, Pisces, particularly around the idea of self and what that's starting to look like, because you're going to have to show up differently as your sense of self expands. You're going to have to show up differently, and there's all sorts of complications with that, like I said, feel kind of challenging and unfair. But if these were having this conversation, then the High Priestess could say, well, this is how I feel and this is what I'm expanding into. And the Queen of Swords would say, allow me to help you take a logical route in cutting out those things that don't make sense, that are not in some way congruent with your development. But she's showing up in the reverse. Not only is she kind of clinging onto her throne in a way that is really difficult, and not able to swing her sword fully, but she actually even has her back to the High Priestess, and it feels like there's that sticking point. Whether it's the practicalities of what you have to cut away that is causing you the issue, you know, and the way that you might have to articulate things that you'd really rather not. The overwhelming energy here is the High Priestess and the Fool and the Sun, you know, the weight of your consciousness on this situation. Tell me about this Queen of Swords in reverse, please. I mean, there is a possibility that for some of you, you've actually started, look, there's that Wheel of Fortune in reverse again. You've actually started this process. And the difficulty is not in your articulation of what it is that you need and the route that you're following, and even that expression of self that we're talking about, but the extent to which it is falling on deaf ears. Because the Queen of Swords in reverse, when she's in the upright, she's about processing a lot of information, right? And so to an extent, she needs to be open, just as you are here with the High Priestess card. She needs to be open to receiving that information. And it could be that it's people that you're dealing with who seem in some way to be committed to misunderstanding what it is that you're trying to say. You may not perceive it as that. You may likely decide that it's an issue of your expression and it's an issue of your articulation. But I wonder if it is that. And I feel like there's possibly somebody in your midst who knows exactly what you're talking about and may know exactly what it is that you're trying to do and why it's so important. But for whatever reason, they lose something here. And so they are not interested in meeting you where you are. In the expression of this moving forward, like I said, this Wheel of Fortune feels like unfairness. And then we've got the Star. It's a card of Aquarius. It talks about connection. It talks about healing, and it talks about hope for the future as well. Could it be that some of you feel like the wheel's actually turning backwards at this point, Pisces? Possibly. Like I said, there's something that feels kind of unfair and unnecessarily heavy where it comes to the responsibility and the actions that need to be taken. And I don't think that this is your fault. I think this is the people that you're dealing with. You're trying to do what's right, what feels right to you. Follow this intuitive path that seems to be laying out in front of you. But in some ways, you might be coming up against this brick wall because you do actually have to compromise at least the fantasy of the collective or the community, or there's certainly more than you. Right? You actually have to do something to disrupt that. Now, disruption here. And it seems like people in your midst are actually countering that and saying that you don't. I think that's where the confusion is setting in, Pisces. But in April, let's just move these cards out of the way and look at these. We have the Nine of Cups in the upright, and I am delighted to see that there for you. We have the Five of Wands showing up in the reverse. Again, delighted to see that for you. And we have the Hanged Man. Now, I wonder if for some of you, oh, that's so interesting. I was having a conversation with someone about that the other day. I wonder if some of you realise in April that you're being drawn into, or you have been being drawn into, somebody else's way of keeping you where you are. Let me try and illustrate this with a story for you. Right. So when I first started kickboxing, there was a woman there who started at the same time as I did, and so we sort of progressed through the belts together, and we used to spar together all the time. And she would always beat me, and it used to be such a source of frustration for me because I knew that there was something that I was doing wrong somewhere, and I couldn't work out what it was. And every single time I would come out of the gym really frustrated, and I would spend time going back over it and over it. And then one day, just like that, it just dropped into my head exactly what the problem was. And the problem was that we were very different fighters, but every time we sparred, she would come in fast and aggressive, and I would be having to try and fight her off. And she was a better boxer than I was, right? And so I would always get overwhelmed by it, and I'd be trying to fight back in exactly the same way that she did. And it hit me like a bolt from the blue that what I needed to do was fight her on my terms instead, right? Using what I was good at, which was the kicking. Like she couldn't pummel the shit out of me if she was, however long this is, which is canny fucking long, if she couldn't get anywhere near me. And I did that, and it totally changed the situation. Now, the way that I'm trying to illustrate this to you is it feels like maybe people have been drawing you into extended conversations about things, right, which have been draining your energy even further, right? To take the metaphor, right, you're allowing them to get in and fight you on their terms. And because you're trying to create as little disruption as possible, right, you've been open to that. And what you need to do is recognize that this is something that's designed to keep you where you are, right? It's exploiting within you something that somebody else knows is important to you, and that's the sense of harmony and everything being kind of cool with everyone. Like you're trying to leave on better terms than actually I think this situation will allow. So this Five of Wands here for me is talking about the recognition that you're being drawn into something, or you have been drawn into something that actually is a bit of a waste of your attention. It's a waste of your time, particularly if somebody is committed to not understanding what it is that you say, and they know that they're draining your energy by just going over it and over it and over it again and again and again. Better to actually choose not to engage. This is what I think that this is. Here we've got the Hanged Man, who is, looking at the situation. It's you, for a start, Pisces, so that's significant. But it's looking at the situation from an entirely different perspective. We're sort of taking you out of your emotions for just a second and looking more logically at what this situation is. Because the card at the top here is the Nine of Cups. It's about your happiness. It's about your fulfillment. It's about what you need. And you seem to be being, I'm not going to say manipulated, because I've heard that's probably a little bit strong, although it absolutely will be relevant for some of you. But, always saying that the only people are going to bitch about you having boundaries or erecting boundaries are the people who benefited from you having none. I think there's a kind of spirit of that sentiment that we can take and apply to the situation that you are trying to extract yourself from. Of course, they're not going to listen to you because they lose something, right? They benefited from you being exactly where you are. They do not benefit from you moving away from them. So then, to that extent, any attempt by you to try and break this down into articulate and meaningful points is a waste of effort. I have a friend, my chaos magician friend, is I remember saying something about having to get the crayons out to explain something. And he said, the problem with writing things out in crayon is that you end up with people looking at the pretty colours. And, whether they're doing that deliberately or they're doing that accidentally, I think that's what's going on here, Pisces. Somebody is choosing to look at the colours rather than looking at the feeling that is coming. And this right here is why this situation is no longer compatible with who you are and who you're trying to be. Who you are, getting ready to expand into being. It's the perfect example of what's happening here. So over the course of April, right, were you centering what you need, right? How you manage your emotions so that you are right at the forefront of your priorities, because that's necessary for a sense of self. And I know it feels really selfish, Pisces, but it's always going to, because you've been trained to feel like any thinking about yourself is selfish. You also have a predisposition towards being incredibly giving to other people, right? You want to be of service. This is what makes you feel happy. But the universe is saying, no, Pisces, you've got to grow beyond this situation, because there are many ways in which you can be of service. But it's in a new situation that is far more in alignment with who you are and who you're becoming than what has been the story up until now. And a huge part of this is recognizing how this Five of Wands that you're either trying to avoid or you've been, accidentally kind of sucked into is a ploy to keep you where you are. Or almost like, you want peace, Pisces. And actually, the Five of Wands does talk about peace. But I don't think you're going to get peace in the breakdown of this. The peace has to be internal. This is why it's looking at the whole situation from a different perspective, recognizing that the people that you are around are not actually, whether it's people or a person, they're not at your level when it comes to where you're at emotionally or spiritually. And the process of breaking away from this is where the growth happens for you. You fight them on your terms. And fighting them on your terms is you getting pretty fucking peaceful with the idea that you have needs and this is what has to happen for you to attend to those needs. Does that make sense? This is really interesting, Pisces. I'm going to go over to do the extended now. So you're very welcome to join me over there if you'd like to go into this a little bit more. You can do that over on Vimeo. You can do that on Circle. It's entirely up to you. I would love to see you in either of those places. If not, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But where April's concerned, consider where you possibly can, right, to kind of meditate on the energy of the Queen of Swords here, because she's the one who helps you make sense of things, and she's objective and she's rational. Like what we want you to do over the course of April is to step back from this situation just a little bit. Try where you possibly can to extricate your emotions from this situation and start trying to look at it logically. Because I think whether it's intentional or not, you are being manipulated in some sort of way, and you're not going to get the outcome that you want if you continue to try and fight them on their, on their terms. Far better that you have a look at this sideways, like see how this has played out, recognize what is happening and what isn't going to happen, and start centering yourself and your peace over everything else. I like this because it's got this little frog at the bottom. I don't know if you can see actually because of the light. But frogs are symbols of spiritual transformation. Like that frog is getting ready to leap, and you are getting ready to leap. I think that April is all about setting the groundwork up for that. But this is kind of like the boss battle for you. Not because of who you're dealing with, but because of what has to shift in you in order for you to leap, right? And the Fool, what do we talk about with the Fool? Taking a leap of faith. He's about to take a leap of faith too. You're about to take a leap of faith. You have to trust yourself and your instincts and your judgments that the path that you are on is the one that needs to happen that needs to happen. And this has to be left behind in order to do that. All right. I'm going to stop talking now. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.